This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Welcome to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends, where we're going to take a deep dive into the lore of the Star Wars universe.
Hello, and welcome to the Holocron Histories podcast, where we talk about all things Legends versus Canon in regards to Star Wars. I am one of your hosts, Teacup or Austin.
And I am Ben of Temeria.
All right. Well, Ben, what do we have to talk about today?
Yeah, today we're going to go on with more the theme with the factions. So how we talked about the Sith and the Jedi first. We are now diving into some of the bigger factions, such as the Galactic Republic today.
That is a big faction.
So with Legends, so we're going to start with the formation of the Galactic Republic. The Republic was born with the ratification of the Galactic Constitution in 25,053 BBY during the Unification Wars, during the time where humans and the Duros reverse engineered the force-based technologies of the Infinite Empire to create the first hyperdrive, allowing Coruscant to become the capital of the Galactic Republic. And then 53 years later, it would remain that way for 25,000 years. So the Infinite Empire was the empire that was created by the Rakata, as we talked about in our previous episodes. They were a force-based species that combined the Force with technology. And then shortly after the formation of the Republic, the Perlimian trade route was mapped, linking Coruscant to Ossus, and then bringing the Jedi Knights to the Republic. Ossus being, as we talked in a previous episode as well, was the first homeworld where the Jedi Order first constructed the Order, and that way now, so with this hyperspace lane, they were able to connect both the Republic with the Jedi. And further down the line, as time goes on, eventually they do join, as we see in most games or even the books. Through history, often recalls the Republic is typically peaceful, but they do have numerous conflicts throughout their history, such as the 100-Year Darkness, the Old Sith Wars, the Volter Cataclysm, the Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi Civil War, the New Sith Wars, and then the Clone Wars. So the the Republic is generally a peaceful faction. That's what they strive for. But obviously there's always the other faction, the Empire, that always wants to control the galaxy. So they're always at war. So now we get into the early history of the Galactic Republic. At first, the government on Coruscant wished to do a slow expansion despite the promotion of hyperspace exploration. However, during this, against the government's wishes, the membership of the Republic boomed for its first millennium of existence, mainly due to worlds wishing to join as protection against the Hutt Empire. In 25,000 BBY, so this is only 53 years after the formation, its capital had officially become the Galactic Hub, and by the time the Hutt Empire had fallen and became Hutt space. And as for the Galactic Hub, that would be Coruscant.
Yeah, it's always interesting that Coruscant comes back over and over again as the Galactic Center when it's just one of what's called the core worlds. It's just interesting that they choose Coruscant when previously there are other big players in the core worlds.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to Coruscant can retain high population compared to most other. I mean, you see in Coruscant, there's multiple levels to where there's thousands upon thousands of levels to where it just houses millions upon millions of uh, civilians. With that, I mean, compared to other worlds in the core worlds, I think as a galactic hub, it's probably the best one, at least in my opinion, just because the how many people can be on the planet.
No. And it'll just be interesting when we talk about canon, just talking about, we might not get into this, but the decision that Coruscant is not the center of the Galactic Republic post-Empire.
Correct. So then for years, the Jedi Knights and the ancient armies and natives of the Republic defended against violence. Around 24,500 BBY, the first great schism occurred after the legions of Leto were established by the distant Jedi who believed the true power was achieved not through passive meditation, as taught by the Jedi Masters, but through emotion. And I didn't go into much detail around this, but I believe that was, if you ever play Star Wars The Old Republic MMO, there's a separate Jedi faction called the Green Jedi that are on Corellia, which they deal with more of emotion than they deal with meditation. So it's like a little separate side faction of the Jedi that are in the Republic. And then during the Great Manifest period, so this is between 20,000 through 17,000 BBY, the Republic expanded eastwards across the galaxy. Eventually, the Republic expanded past the galactic northern and southern borders of the slice. Through most of the galaxy was still unknown, except for the outposts such as Ord Mantell, which was established in 12,000 BBY, and then the Malistar in 8,000 BBY. The space west of Coruscant still remained unexplored since analogs to the Promillion trade route and the Corellian run in the direction still had not been discovered. So the Republic is expanding both east and west, becoming a bigger influence in the galaxy, and eventually this is going to start a giant conflict. So then around in 9,000 BBY, and this is very interesting, Bylus the Hutt became the Supreme Chancellor and ruled the Galactic Republic for 275 years during the Rhinatus period. Unlike most other Hutts, Biotus was a designated and just ruler, or distinguished and just ruler, at least by 7,308 BBY, the Galactic Standard Calendar was fixed. So it's interesting to know there was a Hutt chancellor, when we know in history Hutts are typically not wanting to be in the spotlight.
Yeah, I think Wookieepedia describes Hutts as inherently greedy and self-serving. So it's interesting that one would become Supreme Chancellor and be classified as a just ruler.
Yeah, and liked. Like that's the other thing. Like most people in the galaxy don't like Hutts, and there's typically a very good reason why they don't like Hutts. It's because they typically the ones in charge of crime syndicates and ruling with a firm fist, iron fist kind of a style.
Right.
So then in 5,000 BBY, the Jedi and the old Sith Empire clashed in the Great Hyperspace War. Many worlds were forever scarred by the battle, but the Jedi were able to repulse the invaders. After that, the Republic granted the Jedi land over a Force Nexus, a sacred mountain on Coruscant, over the Jedi Temple, where the Jedi Temple was constructed. The Sith were defeated in the same year, but were not destroyed. So now we get into the time period of the old Sith Wars. So in the year 4015 BBY, the Great Droid Revolution happened on Coruscant, led by HK-01, who was eventually defeated by Arca Jeth and the Jedi. During this conflict, Arca Jeth discovered techniques for disabling machines through the use of the Force. So, and I mean, if anybody gets the reference, HK-01 is the HK series of droids were assassination droids.
Yes, also Arca Jeth in KOTOR 2, if you use console commands, you can basically console command in her robes, or their robes for you to wear. And I believe it gives you kind of bonuses against droids and such, which is interesting. But it's something that was added to the game, but you have to be like level 40 or 50 before it starts spawning in the Knights of the Old Republic 2, which is impossible to get even in the bait, even with.
I say by that time you beat the game, you're like level 30.
Yeah, and even with the way to get to the highest level in just the base game is you have to have Kreia in your party at all times because she gives you an XP boost. But yeah, so it's impossible in the base game, but through the use of console commands or, modding, you can get there and get those robes, but they do exist in the game.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. See, I always played, KOTOR 1 and 2 on console before I had a PC, so I wasn't able to do all that fancy console commands or anything like that.
Well, if you have a chance to play KOTOR 2 with the restored content mod, I highly recommend it.
I have it downloaded. I just haven't started it yet.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. So following these conflicts were those of the old Sith Wars, which began in 4000 BBY, which almost destroyed the Republic. So during the Great Sith War, which was 4000 BBY to 3996 BBY, the Sith Lords Exar Kun and Oleg Keldroma, along with their Krath and Mandalorian allies, waged war on the Republic with their own Sith Empire, causing devastation until they were defeated by the combined Jedi and Republic forces. And Exar Kun, just a little bit on him, he was a very powerful horse wielder, which I believe, if I recall, Exar Kun was once a Jedi and then became a Sith Lord. And him alone changed the course of the Sith during his reign.
Yeah, I believe he is also the inventor of the double-bladed lightsaber.
Yes, I believe so. And these would then be followed by the Mandalorian Wars, 3976 to 3960 BBY. They were fought between the Mandalorian forces, hoping to expand their colonies beyond the Outer Rim territories, and the Galactic Republic, which feared further incursions. The Mandalorian Wars were a prelude to the more devastating Jedi Civil War, which was 3959 to 3956 BBY. The Jedi Civil War was also known to some as the War of the Star Forge, which was fought between the Republic and the Sith Empire under Darth Revan and Darth Malak. So this is where KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2 comes in. KOTOR 1 is the after, so you, spoiler warning, if you don't want to hear this, skip a couple minutes, like a minute ahead. But the player character, you find out you're Revan. Well, you, Revan, lead a Jedi team against the Council, against the Mandalorians that were trying to attack the Republic. Eventually, you get banished from the Order, and then go out into the Outer Rim, get brainwashed, become a Sith Lord, come back, and then that's the start of KOTOR 1. And the Jedi Civil War was shortly before the events of KOTOR 2 with the Jedi exile.
Yeah, so for me, it was always unclear because they referred to the conflict of Revan versus Malak, or Revan and Malak versus the Republic as the Jedi Civil War. And then whatever happens with the Jedi exile is something different, I guess, but it is kind of just like a continuation. I always viewed KOTOR 2 as kind of a prelude to the new Sith Wars.
Yeah. And then we get to in 3681 BBY, the Sith Empire returned to wage war against the Republic in the Great Galactic War. The war greatly weakened the Republic, culminating in the sacking of Coruscant and the signing of the Treaty of Coruscant in 3653 BBY. The Treaty of Coruscant placed several major burdens on the Republic. A large economic depression began. Slowly, the rebuilding process and stalling efforts to restore peace. The Treaty of Coruscant also forced the Republic to abandon many longtime allies, including the Bothans. The Republic was forced to relinquish control of many planets to the Empire, such as Balmorra. So the Great Galactic War is actually the events of Star Wars: The Old Republic. So in the MMO, you are, depending on what character you class you choose, you are in this time period of where the Republic and Sith Empire are waging war against each other. And Balmorra was actually a Republic controlled planet, which they used as a prison. The entire planet is a prison planet. So think of like modern day Earth, but like when before Australia became a country, it was where they dumped a bunch of fugitives, criminals, and all that, and then Australia became a country. Balmorra is basically like the same thing.
Interesting.
And then at an unspecified point in galactic history, the Sith Empire would eventually fall, with Darth DeSilvos having set up his own faction over a century after the internal Empire invasion. So the reason why it says eventually would fall is because we're still getting Legends content, because the Old Republic MMO is still an ongoing game, which I play. The game's been out for ongoing. It just celebrated 10 years back in November, and still ongoing. So we'll eventually probably get to that point, but who knows? And then now we get into the new Sith Wars. So in 2000 BBY, the Republic once more faced the menace of the Sith with the fall of Darth Rune and the rise of the new Sith Empire. This time, the Jedi took the forefront of the war against the revived Order. And then the Republic itself shrank more to a rump state surrounding the core worlds, inner colonies, and other worlds outside of it. The Sith Empire encompassing virtually the rest of the entire galaxy, the Jedi took over absolute authority, ruling the remainder of the Republic directly. So this is interesting because normally the Jedi typically take a back seat on a lot of things, to where the Republic Senate or the Supreme Chancellor are typically the ones in command or in charge. With how big of a threat the Sith are, the Jedi just overruled everybody.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And we see in the movies, like, the Jedi Council don't want to do anything. It's like, oh, this Republic needs to do what they need to do, until, Palpatine doesn't want to give up power. Then they are forced to act. But then the Senate was bypassed, with sole governing power residing in the Jedi, while the Republic's armed forces were absorbed into the Jedi Army of Light. So the Jedi and the Army of the Republic joined into one faction at this time. And then after nearly 500 years of continued war, the Army of Light had beat back the Sith to the planet of Ruusan, and then finally defeated. And then they were finally defeated in 1000 BBY at the Seventh Battle of Ruusan. Although almost all the forces of the Army of Light were on Ruusan also perished, this lone Sith survivor, Darth Bane, subsequently initiated the rule of two, meaning that they were only given there at a time, there would be one Sith master and one Sith apprentice. So from previous episodes, as in our Sith episode, Darth Bane was a huge important factor in the Sith's history, and knowing he's one of the few survivors of this massive war that was on for 500 years is insane something.
And it's really important to state that all of this history that leads up to the Seventh Battle of Ruusan in 1000 BBY is all kind of building to this point of what is about to happen in Darth Bane. The Jedi and Sith have been fighting in massive conflicts for tens of thousands of years. And Darth Bane looks at that and he actually gets inspiration from a holocron that is Darth Revan's.
Yes.
And so both Bane and Darth Revan are technically fathers of the rule of two. And so it's because all of that kind of culminates. And Bane's whole thing is that the reason that he wants the rule of two to be implemented is because he views the Sith as weak. And he actually plays an instrumental role in the wiping out of both the Sith and the Jedi on Ruusan.
Yeah. And I do remember he does look, yes, he looks at as the Sith as weak, but there's also they were killing each other while these wars are going on. This 500-year war is going on. The Sith themselves were not only they were fighting the Jedi and the Republic at the same time, but they were fighting amongst themselves, which I know Darth Bane doesn't see as a good thing for the Sith to do if you're just wiping each other out on a regular basis. So now we get into the decline of the Republic. So as the Republic grew more and more powerful, many of the bureaucrats and senators that ran the government grew increasingly corrupt or complacent. The bureaucracy that had grown and fostered over millennia choked any attempt at effective government. So this is at the decline of the Republic in this era. This is where we're going to get into the modern day of Star Wars with the prequel films all the way up to the Galactic Empire, when the Republic becomes the Empire. So during this time, 32 BBY, the center of Naboo, who is Palpatine, his home world was under siege by the Trade Federation. Despite the full-scale invasion of the planet, the call to condemn the invasion was tied up in bureaucratic procedure. So, if you watch episode 1, the Phantom Menace, the Republic barely does anything with this invasion because they're fighting. The Senate is fighting amongst themselves, trying to figure out what to do. Because some want to get their hands dirty, others don't. They don't see it as a potential threat. They're just, fighting amongst themselves. And then traditionally, the Chancellor could only serve 2 full terms, but when Palpatine stayed in office much longer due to the prolonged separatist crisis that began on Raxus Prime in 24 BBY. And then we get up to the events of the Clone Wars, episode 2, episode 3, and we all know what happens where, Palpatine as Chancellor does not give up his power even after the entire war with the Separatists, which you find out, he's he's controlling both parties just so he can make one new party.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a crisis of his own making, so we can use it as an excuse to solidify power.
Yep. Because he's sly and he's been planning this, who knows how long. So yeah, that's what we got in Legends for the Galactic Republic.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take our break and then we'll come back and talk about canon.
Once upon a time, 27 years after the bombs fell, there were two people, a vault dweller and a California girl. They met and sparks flew. That's when things got interesting. Once Upon a Wasteland is their story. Follow Elizabeth Kirby and Odessa Valdez as they pursue their happily ever after in the post-apocalyptic Appalachian wasteland of Fallout 76. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many other podcasting platforms. Once Upon a Wasteland, a Fallout 76 love story. Available now.
All right. Well, welcome to the middle of the show where we talk about all things that don't have to do with the legends versus canon lore of the Star Wars universe. And I want to take this time to, if you're wondering how to support us, one of the best ways to do that is to leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. This is a great opportunity to support the podcast and let other people know that you like what we do. If you leave us a 5-star review with some words on Apple, we will read them on a future episode of the show. And Ben, I think we do have a review to read today.
We do. So this review is 5 stars. Judgment shall be passed. I am Dark Toasty of Toasterton Velopolis, and I have come past judgment on this podcast. I'm very impressed by the wealth of information both the hosts have when it comes to Star Wars. It's a heavy universe with massive amounts of lore, and both the hosts handle it tremendously. Also, it's really nice to see how Ben is growing and handling a project on his own. Keep up the great work, Teacup of Temeria, Toasty. And Toasty is one of our friends from the Robots Radio Network. He is one of the co-hosts for the Witcher Lore cast that I tend to be on once a month.
Thanks, Toasty. Thanks for the review. All right. And Ben, I think you have a little announcement about Star Wars The Old Republic.
Yes. So I've been getting back more into Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMO. So we actually started a channel in the Cups Discord that we have for a Star Wars Old Republic guild. So if anybody is wanting to join, just join in our Discord and just post who you are, what server you're on. We mainly are going to be probably on the Satil Shan server, which is one of the US servers that is for the Old Republic.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I would join y'all, but sadly I do not have. I have a MacBook and that can't run the Old Republic, but it sounds like fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else for the middle of the show, Ben?
No, that's really it. That's all I got right now. That's for today.
All right. Well, let's jump back in.
Hey everyone, do you enjoy the Elder Scrolls? Do you like to hear about the lore in an RP setting? Well, do we have a show for you? Come join us on Elder Scrolls Off the Rails for our Let's Play episodes, our random banter, and maybe some of our upcoming D&D campaigns. You can find us wherever podcasts are available.
All right. So now that we talked about legends, we are going to go into the canon history of the Galactic Republic. So the formation of the Galactic Republic in canon, it was formed approximately around 25,000 BBY, so pretty close to what around the same time as what Legends had it. It rose to power by expanding across the galaxy, with several of its founding members being the planets Alderaan and Trendelia. And then at some point, the Jedi Temple was constructed over a Sith shrine in order to contain its dark energy. Once it had established itself on Coruscant, the Jedi Order came to closely associate itself with the Old Republic, serving as guardians of peace and justice for over 1,000 generations. So then we get into time period of Clash of Destinies in the galaxy. So as the Old Republic spread its influence across the stars, it came into contact with various other powers, one of them being the Zygerian slave empire. Due to that, at some point in its past, the Old Republic declared slavery illegal and expected other civilizations of the galaxy to comply. It took an aggressive stance against Zygerians. So with that, I mean, there was always conflict with the Zygerians because of slavery, and with, the Republic always being the stand-up model of peace and justice, slavery is no good.
Yeah, and you really see this kind of like, it's alluded to in the prequels when like Padme's talking about this Republic's anti-slavery laws. But you really see this like tension like in the present day come to the forefront in the Zygerian arc of the Clone Wars TV show.
Yes. Is that the
It's just
one where Anakin and Ahsoka go like undercover?
no, it's the one where they're all like taken as slaves. Obi-Wan is in like a mine. Ahsoka is a slave. Anakin basically ends up being kind of like, for more PG-13 audience, like a romantic slave of the Zygerian queen.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Yep.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, Clone Wars tackled a lot of like Main Street themes, which is very surprising for a show like that. Then eventually the Sith would return in full strength, invading the Old Republic. From there, the Dark Order would eventually do battle with the Jedi and the Old Republic. So just like in Legends, during this Old Republic era, the Sith do come back and do have war. Now, as far as in canon, there's not a whole lot of history of the time during the Old Republic, since that isn't fleshed out yet. But I'm assuming at some point we will get there. So during one of the wars, the Jedi fought the Sith Empire on Malachor, which proved to be one of its most devastating battles in history of the Order. So just like in one of our previous episodes, Malachor we see in Star Wars Rebels, where Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka visit. The entire planet is petrified because of the Sith temple / weapon that is on Malachor. And then at some point, the Old Republic came into contact with the Mandalorian people. The warrior civilization began a series of unprovoked military campaigns against the Old Republic. Later on, after an all-out war erupted, the Jedi stepped in to defend the Republic. So, wink, wink. That's kind of like how the Mandalorian Wars were. I think this was alluded in Rebels with Sabine, right?
Yeah, there's a big, I don't want to spoil it. Go watch Rebels and watch the scene between Kanan and Sabine when he's training her, because it's one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars. And so I'm not going to go into it because it's the best. It's my favorite scene. I'm a big Rebels stan.
Yeah, Rebels was great. And then the Galactic Republic also participated in the Sith Wars, a series of conflicts against the Sith Empire and involving the Chiss Ascendancy. The Ascendancy encountered a number of aliens before retreating to their borders. And the Chiss, if anybody knows, the Chiss is a alien race outside of, they are from the unknown regions, and that is what Admiral Thrawn is. He is a Chiss. That is his race. And I mean, besides Admiral Thrawn, we don't really see many Chiss in the Star Wars universe, at least in canon. If I do recall, though, in, I believe it's Revenge of the Sith, the cameo that George Lucas did and his daughter were in Revenge of the Sith. They were, I believe, Chiss. They were dressed up in blue.
Were they Chiss, or I thought they were
And they might have been Twi'leks. I can't remember.
No, they weren't Twi'leks. The planet's name is Pantora.
Oh yeah, you're right. They weren't Chiss. They were blue.
Because they're characters in the Clone Wars. But it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because I believe the Chiss ascendancy plays a big role in later legends, like during the New Republic, and
because
they kind of are. Yeah, they're brought into the fold after the whole Thrawn thing, because in Legends, Thrawn is a part of the Empire, but he comes back into a big play after the fall of the Empire and the death of Palpatine.
And then right now in canon, there's also the Thrawn books that the ascendancy is also in. I just haven't had a chance to read the Thrawn books yet.
And it's possible that with the new Ahsoka show coming, we might get a little more of the Chiss ascendancy, because we know that she's looking for Ezra, and Ezra is wherever Thrawn is.
Correct.
At least when we last saw them.
That is true. So now we get into the fall of the Old Republic. The power of the Sith Empire increased during the fall of the Old Republic. The Sith soon achieved near dominance across the galaxy. Also during this time, the ancestor of Pre Vizsla of House Vizsla, leader of the Mandalorian group Death Watch during the Clone Wars, managed to steal the Darksaber from the Jedi Temple. And then at some point, and then at some point, the galaxy entered a state known as the Dark Age. During this time, the Jedi-Sith War broke out. Early on in this conflict, the Old Republic capital world of Coruscant was taken over by the Sith during the Battle of Coruscant. Later on in the war, the Sith were driven off-planet by the Jedi during the liberation of Coruscant. Surprise, surprise, Coruscant's always being attacked.
Yeah, it's not very secure for a galactic hub. I feel like it's invaded all the time.
It is. Literally all the time. In Legends and in canon. It doesn't get a break. And then the Old Republic managed to gain some of its strength after its forces had reclaimed the capital. Capable of going on the offensive, the Jedi were strong enough to finally end its ancient war against the Mandalorian clans. A battle between both groups on the planet Mandalore left the planet ravaged and lifeless. It was during this time, too, when the Sith were finally defeated. So, I think they mentioned it at some point in the Clone Wars as well, when Obi-Wan goes to Mandalore. And if you see the planet, it's not doing great. At all. And then and then the Sith then abandoned their traditional homeworld of Moraband, which we discussed in a previous episode, which was renamed of Korriban, after it was scarred by many wars. Very few Sith remained by this point, and they ultimately destroyed themselves. Only one Sith Lord survived. Darth Bane reinvented the Sith by creating the Rule of Tooth. Henceforth, their ranks were limited to a Sith Master and a Sith Apprentice. Just like in Legends, Darth Bane takes a prominent role of changing the Sith, even in canon, to where there's only ever 2 Sith at a time.
Yeah, I think that Disney in this point, they're keeping things in their back pocket that they know are big, things that the fandom have attached onto, like Thrawn. They always kind of kept in their back pocket.
The Mandalorian Wars.
The Mandalorian Wars. I've always said that the Mandalorian Wars would make a great TV series. Kind of I would love to see it done in did you ever watch the Band of Brothers series?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see it kind of in that, where it's more like the war, gritty. You're following just a small platoon of either Republic or Mandalorians, or maybe both.
We could see there was Disney put out the Star Wars Celebration schedule about a week ago, and they took it down. They deleted the tweet after an hour for being up because they messed up to where they accidentally revealed a new animated series called Tales of the Jedi, which in Legends, the Tales of the Jedi was comics based off of the Old Republic era and some other eras in the Star Wars universe. So we maybe see something. Who knows?
All I know is I want it, and I want more like golden age of Mandalore content. Not,
Yes.
I love the Mandalorian, but I want the
Like,
golden age of Mandalore.
yeah, give us like where like their planet is thriving, or like their their culture and everything is like dominant, not like scattered across the stars like it is in like Clone Wars or even in Rebels, more or less in Rebels.
Yeah. I mean, in Legends, the Mandalorians are so ferocious and so like prominent in battle that they are basically like bringing the galaxy to its heel
Yeah.
until Revan steps in, and it's just the ability of like, it's not even the fact that Revan is a Jedi that wins, it's the fact that Revan has such a brilliant tactical mind, and there's a point where he becomes as ruthless as the Mandalorians. And
yeah, I mean, like the Mandalorians, like during the Mandalorian Wars, the Mandalorians switched from beam or laser weaponry to ballistic weaponry because their lightsabers couldn't bounce back their bolts. It's like, oh, you're going to bounce back our blaster bolts? All right, cool. Here, take a a giant bullet. Try to deflect that.
it's kind of like if you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, the Mandalorians are kind of like the Saiyans in the sense of every single obstacle they face in battle, they just view as a new challenge to overcome. And it excites them and like gets their blood boiling. So yeah, it's just like the more creative you are and the more you push the Mandalorians, the harder they push back.
Yes.
Which is why Revan kind of adopts this more ferocious ideology getting there, because he's like, I just have to destroy them in one thing, because if I try to chip away at them conventionally, they're just gonna come back stronger each time.
Yep. So then, as the Old Republic fell apart as a result of the continuous wars, the Jedi Order finally believed itself victorious from its conflict with the Sith, who they believed had been destroyed completely. Finally, peace was restored to the galaxy. The shattered Old Republic reorganized itself into the modern Galactic Republic, which would usher in over 1,000 years of stability known as the Great Peace. So Old Republic falls, they reorganize themselves to the what we know as the modern day Galactic Republic, and we have a long stance of peace throughout the galaxy where there's very little conflict. As the Old Republic was restored in the form of the modern Galactic Republic in 1032 BBY, after the Galactic Republic's reformation, the Zygerians would continue to hold a grudge against both the Republic and the Jedi Order for the destruction of their slave empire, which, I mean, surprise, surprise, of course they're going to keep a grudge. And then the modern Republic was a democratic union that consisted of multiple star systems spread across the galaxy, with the exception of small-scale conflicts that the Jedi dealt with. The Republic era was an age of peace and stability that lasted for over a millennium. So now we get into the era of the High Republic, which is a ongoing current time period that Disney is currently creating with the High Republic novels. So it's continuously expanding as there is getting more books. Right now, phase 1 of the novels is done. There's about I believe between 6 and 10 novels, if you include the children books on top of the novels and the young adult novels, which the young adult novels and the main novels and the young adult novels, the ones that you want to read because they're continuous stories, where the children books you don't need to read those because they're not main to the story. So, with the galaxy at peace, the High Republic era saw the Galactic Republic reach its pinnacle of power, its influence spreading across the furthest and less settled regions of the galaxy. By 232 BBY, during the Chancery of Lindus So, as a result of the hyperspace travel. Constructed along other way stations at a considerable expense and effort through many challenges over a long period of time, Starlight Beacon was designed to expand the Republic's domain to the unexplored dark zones, quote unquote, of the Outer Rim territories, because So's pledged to bring the region into the Republic's embrace, hoping the government could actually help the Outer Rim instead of simply flying through it or using it as another place to collect taxes. So this is a time where, the Republic is trying to unite all the core worlds, the inner rim, and then the outer rim, all to become one republic.
Yeah, I just read about so I'm reading through some High Republic comics right now, and like Starlight Beacon was just finished in its creation in the comic.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like following a couple conflicts that happen after that. Yeah, and it's been interesting.
Yeah, the High Republic stuff's it's really cool to see them expand more into the earlier, it's not early years of the Republic, but stuff that we haven't seen even in Legends, because this is all brand new stuff. And then, although the Outer Rim was hard to navigate and dangerous to live in, many poor settlers traveled to the region, leaving colonies in pursuit of new lives. These dreams for the better lives were supported by the Republic, which, although imperfect like the government, encouraged the hopes of its civilians, whether their hopes be large or small. And then, lacking a formal military due to the galaxy's peace, the Republic was protected by a small peacekeeping fleet known as the Republic Defense Coalition, which was helped by the Jedi Order. So this is also a time where the Jedi Order was actually very prominent in the galaxy. They were more of a side faction alongside the Republic, just like you see them like in the prequel series, in the prequel movies, where the Jedi do their own thing alongside the Republic. The Jedi are doing a lot more during this time.
And you kind of really see them more in like this role of peacekeeper in the High Republic, which I think is helpful because like the only time we've ever like seen Jedi in like the films is in a time of conflict, in a time of war. And so the High Republic has been nice to see the Jedi like just handling different things across the galaxy, not the looming threat of a Sith with a big army coming to fight them.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also, I mean, since this is in between 232 BBY, is what I said. Yoda is a prominent Jedi master, a Grand Master, actually, during this time, alongside there's actually another Grand Master that is alongside him running the Jedi Order.
Yes, I remember.
And then the partnership between the two parties would only increase when the Nihil conflict began. The conflict began when starships were abruptly knocked out of hyperspace in a galaxy-wide event known as the Great Hyperspace Disaster, caused by the eye of the Nihil Marchion Ro, a member of the Ro family who destroyed the transport Legacy Run in hyperspace, which all of its remains came out of hyperspace in the Hutz system, causing a sudden crisis as they are rained upon the system. So what happens in the Light of the Jedi book, and if you want to read the book, I highly recommend it. And if you don't want spoilers, skip ahead. But in the book, the Nihil use different hyperspace lanes as what the Republic don't have. And the Legacy Run was a transport cruiser just transporting people from one place to another, and a Nihil ship crashed in, like, hyperspaced into another hyperspaced ship, and then that made all, like, the ships both get destroyed in hyperspace. And so now you have all these metal shards and pieces of the ships coming out of hyperspace at completely random places. And it was a giant crisis to where, like, an entire planet almost got just wiped out. So then, as the High Republic era grew to a close around 82 BBY, Jedi Padawan Sean remembered that the Nihil had launched an invasion of the Republic, and then I put in parentheses, new info is still being made, because since the High Republic era is still being constantly constructed and developing as time goes on with new books, and hopefully we might be seeing new shows. We do know the Star Wars Eclipse video game that Quantum Dream is working on is a High Republic game, so we will get a game in the High Republic era, at least for one. And then 4 centuries, the Galactic Republic expanded not through force, but by quietly exerting a strong magnetic pull towards neighboring systems. The promise of trade with core worlds held many systems in sway, luring non-member worlds into tighter cooperation with the state body. And as time went by, the Republic stood firm, becoming increasingly powerful. As a result, the galaxy remained free of any full-scale wars for centuries. However, many of the bureaucrats and senators that ran the government continue to work for their own profit rather than common good. And then we get to the events of the prequel films of episode 1 through 3, just like we see in Legends and, in the films. Things eventually do not go the way they want to go.
And I think the High Republic, at least from the little snippets that I have read, it's doing a very good job of, like, explaining how the Republic gets to the point where it's at the beginning of episode 1.
Yeah. I'm currently I'm on the second to last book. I'm like halfway through the second to last book, and it's like you can see, they added a lot of new content in the books that we don't see in the prequel films, and there is very specific good reasons why we don't see that stuff that you for reading the books. And then surprisingly, the books can get pretty dark, like, for being, like, created by Disney or for Disney. The books have pretty dark tones compared to, like, other things that we see Disney create, like for the animated shows.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the books are like that, and I think it's just that the authors are given a little more freedom than the showrunners or filmmakers are.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, them, oh, hey, a Trandoshan's arm gets cut off, and, like, they go into detail with it in the book, and then you go into, like, the movies or the shows, so it's all off screen because they don't want to show that.
Yeah, that so the comics I'm reading pick up his story, like,
Yes.
right after Light of the Jedi.
Yeah, he's like, seeing a Trandoshan Jedi alone is awesome. And then we do get another Wookiee Jedi as well in the books as well, which is nice to see more. We see a lot more different species as Jedi in the High Republic books, which is really good diversity, not just being humans or, Yoda. We see a lot more diversity in the species, which is really nice.
Which is all kind of what I think George Lucas would have wanted, like, he always wanted to add more aliens. Like, that was a dream of his from the
Mhm.
very beginning. And so I think that that's good that they're expanding more species of aliens to be included in the galaxy.
Yeah, and it's nothing against George Lucas. The only reason, honestly, he wasn't able to is just the time of him creating the films, even the prequel films. Yeah, I mean, they were CGI, but it wasn't like what today's CGI is. Like, there was limitations to what they could do.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's what we got on canon for the Galactic Republic.
All right, well, that's awesome. Do you have any like closing thoughts on the Galactic Republic?
Not too much really. It's just more of keep in mind that with the High Republic novels, Star Wars